to the Mina Show featuring Lenny. Only NFL podcasts. One of the hosts thinks fixing games means you're robbing them of their ability to have children. That's Lenny. I'm Mina Kimes. It's very convoluted. Dog fun. Here, joining me to preview week 3 of the NFL season, the host of NFL Daily, the great Gregg Rosenthal. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, I'm not used to the opening joke being so dark, but very excited to be here.
I was going to go with the Stephon Diggs joke because big news, TMZ is reporting that him and Cardi B are starting a family. But I've leaned on the Diggs brothers so often for digging related jokes that I felt like it didn't have to go back to that well. We'll get to the Patriots. We will not get to Cardi B. But once again, we will be discussing all of the games in order. I don't know if you caught that. I know you sometimes listen to the pod, but the listeners voiced their objection to Thursday Night Football at the end. So now we do Thursday Night Football at the beginning. Some of the games I'll be picking a key. Some of the games Greg will be picking a key. Some of the games we'll both be picking keys. Thursday Night Football this week is not one of those games. Bills Dolphins. We're only a few years removed from these Bills Dolphins games being like must-see television. You remember when the Dolphins offense was rolling? These were ballyhooed. This feels like zero juice.
No juice. I think it's a 12.5 point line, which is crazy.
Ooh, don't like that.
Actually, weirdly, I feel like it was almost the peak of the Mike McDaniel era, where those 2 games against the Bills that they lost late in his first year, one in the snow where I thought they played well, was back and forth late, and then in that playoff game. And now you look and it's just depressing there. And weirdly, the most depressing thing I think about their team that it's been a little under the radar is their pass rush just hasn't been there at all this year.
That's my key.
Sorry.
That's on my key. Yeah, I wrote Dolphins. Where is the pass rush? So the case for the Dolphins being competitive this year, one, you get Tua back, the passing attack looks good, was better last week, certainly. And then that the pass rush, finally healthy, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Chubb Robinson, is able to compensate for all of the very glaring holes in the back end. But early on, actually, I think that's been the most disappointing part of this football team. Last week, just pulling it up, the 4-man rush against New England had a 21% pressure rate, which is very low. They're getting absolutely zero juice from the inside, which, that's what happens when you let Calais Campbell walk. Meanwhile, he's over there in Arizona calling the game. And of course, they're getting diced up on the back. That was predictable. But this lack of any, for them to be competitive in this game, these guys, the 3 guys I mentioned, really have to start showing up, Greg, because, the early returns have been really underwhelming.
And there's little reason to think they will, because this Bills offensive line, some of the numbers in terms of the continuity that they've had, not just of year after year bringing back the same offensive line. We're on year 3 now, which never happens, but also they never miss any time. And it's why I push back a little when people talk about the lack of weapons around Josh Allen. It's that offensive line is a weapon. The running game is obviously a weapon. So, they went up against 2 teams, the Colts and the Patriots, who, you wouldn't have thought would have incredible offensive lines, and really didn't look like it in their other games, even though the Colts have been so productive. And they made Will Campbell look like a top 5 pick last week. It's very concerning.
Offensively, I mean, the other side of the ball is probably a little more competitive, I would say, right? Because the Bills defense had a real bounce back performance against the Jets, but that might have been a referendum game, okay, wait, is the Steelers defense that bad that the Jets were able to roll over them? I kind of think water is starting to find its level a little bit. I think the Bills defense did bounce back though, credibly. It also might be a referendum game on how the Ravens are just terrifying when things are rolling for them. But they are missing Ed Oliver again and Matt Milano in this one. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's another massive Devon Achane game through the air. He's become such a weapon for Miami in the passing game. Run game still leaves a little bit left to be desired. But the formula for this being competitive, pass rush on one side, and then the other side, I feel like if they're able to attack the spine of this Bills defense, they could at least make it. I mean, certainly not, better than 12 points you said. Obviously I'm picking Buffalo, but I think the Miami offense could make this interesting.
Their offense played well last week until they needed to go win the game, and they had two chances to win the game. And it was almost like Russell Wilson's performance last week that's all you can remember. In the end, before that, they were completely dominating a Patriots secondary, despite giving up a lot of pressure. Like Tua, they looked like the Dolphins offense that you're used to seeing. But then the last couple of drives were so disjointed, and Tua was so bothered by pressure. I think he'll get protected better, in this game. But it's hard to imagine them keeping up in a shootout.
All right, so I assume you're on the Bills as well.
Yes, I am on the Bills.
Okay, let's do another very lopsided game. Packers Browns. This one is you. This is in Cleveland. Greg, could this be Joe Flacco's last stand? Like, what are you looking at here?
Oh man, that's a lot of Dylan Gabriel to throw out there this season. That is a brutal matchup, and I figured that's like the less interesting side. The Packers defense versus the Browns offense is about as lopsided a matchup as you could possibly have. So if you're just watching this game, and the Browns defense has been very good against the run so far, and the Packers haven't been great running the ball, so you figure the Packers have to run the ball. My key is Myles Garrett versus Anthony Belton, most likely the rookie right tackle who's probably going to have to line up against Garrett a lot in this game if Zach Tom is not ready to play, and at least early in the week it's trending that way. Because it's the Browns, I think people have missed like Myles Garrett. It's boring to say how incredible Myles Garrett is, but it's incredible.
He was giving Ronnie Stanley the business this last week. I know they got crushed by Baltimore, but there was, the Ravens offense had some ups and downs in this game. And you saw that week 1 too against Cincinnati. Like the Browns defense is still really good. It is definitely the more interesting side of the ball. And yeah, the Packers offensive line remains a concern, especially since I think like the Browns defense is going to stack the box. It's kind of what they do, and play a lot of man coverage, basically daring Jordan Love to beat them over the top. And I think whether or not Myles Garrett can take over drives is going to determine whether or not they can move on them, because I think running is going to be hard to come by against this Brown, not just because the players, but like structurally. It's obviously an underwhelming year for the Browns, but it took me a second to get to this game. All the rookies look good. Outside of Gabriel, who's barely played, and obviously Sanders hasn't played at all. But like it's looking like a pretty damn good draft class for Cleveland.
Mason Graham's been a little quiet, but the other guys, Carson Schwessinger looks like a dude. Like the great linebacker shortage of the last couple of years feels like it's correcting with a couple of the guys in this game, especially with Edgerrin Cooper on the other side. Quay Walker's playing better. And then, Harold Fannin Jr. looks like a fun rookie for them. Dylan Sampson, and we'll see about Judkins. He looks solid for having practiced just a couple games. They have a fun rookie class, and Andrew Berry needs it badly. I am curious, like if Love is under a lot of pressure from Garrett, who's also like on pace for by far the most run stuffs he's ever had. He's just doing everything. They do feel like the team though that can find a mismatch here. I think they're like one player short without Martin Emerson. Cam Mitchell's out there a lot, and I noticed early in that game, like the first drive of that game on a Thursday night is all these check with me's from Jordan Love, which is not something you would be able to do. You're usually on a short week unless it's like a veteran quarterback with a ton of continuity, and they just have so much great continuity in terms of being in the same system.
Yeah, I think Matt LaFleur versus Jim Schwartz is kind of a big one here because I mentioned I think they're going to have a tough day running the ball. There's also very clear ways to attack this Browns defense that I think LaFleur will be able to find. It's just kind of contingent on Love not trying to do too much if they get them into 3rd and long, not trying to force throws because they're so dominant on the other side of the ball. This is a, hey, don't lose this game on offense kind of day. Picking Green Bay, I assume you are as well.
Yes.
Okay, so really quick before we move on, as far as the Flacco Gabriel, assuming Flacco has a tough day at the office, and I think you will. After this, you've got the Lions, Vikings, then you have the Steelers, Dolphins, Patriots. So maybe you tough it out a couple more weeks with Joe Flacco before scooting Gabriel in for a nice divisional start against Pittsburgh based on that defense is. I don't know why I'm acting like Dylan Gabriel is something that needs to be managed like Jackson Dart. He's a 3rd round draft pick, but that would be the game. I think if I had to choose if I was a Dylan Gabriel supporter, that's what I would want him to start.
I think you want to see 2 or 3 of those really down Flacco weeks, and it was down a year ago. And you think of all the older athletes that talk about like the number one thing of getting older is just like some days they just don't have it, because he played pretty well, I thought, in week 1, not in week 2. Like, as long as he's providing a baseline, I think they want to push it off about a month or 2.
All right. The dominant Indianapolis Colts.
Let's go.
Against the Tennessee Titans. This is me. So I have talked a lot about the Colts this week. So I'm gonna, and I have I've talked almost nothing. I have very little about the Tennessee Titans. So I'm gonna focus on them for my key. I wrote, can Tennessee just protect Cam Ward in this game? Like everyone else, I have been encouraged by the flashes we have seen from Ward. I actually, you know what? I'm assuming. What has your early take on the Cam Ward experience? I'm making some assumptions there.
Oh, just like fun for the whole family. Like, give me more. I mean, like exactly what I was hoping for, and looking better than the numbers.
Yeah, I think that's pretty universal. And I know obviously he had like the freaky throw it across the field touchdown to Elik Ayomanor. Hope I got that right. And that's like not something that feels necessarily sustainable, although he does have cool arm talent, and you're going to see more stuff like that. But I also think on some of the in rhythm stuff, he has looked good. He obviously has the arm talent to play in the NFL. However, he's taken a lot of pressure. Some of it is his fault. Some of it is on the offensive line. J.C. Latham hasn't been playing at right tackle. That right side, I can't remember who's playing for him, but it's been really, really rough out there. He was under pressure in this last game against admittedly a very good Rams front. 42% of the time, took 5 sacks. They're not going to be able to get it going, unless they can. And the thing is, too, they're kind of running the ball well with Pollard. So it's not like he's being hung out to dry necessarily. We'll get to Caleb Williams and my thoughts on that. But to me, there's an opportunity here. This is a somewhat, he's had a brutal start in terms of like pass rushes, right? The Colts defense is good. I think they're improved, but I don't view this as one of the scarier pass rushers in the NFL. And I think last week in particular, they didn't look that great to me. So I think there is an opportunity here to continue like building on Ward, getting him more comfortable, playing within rhythm, but also protecting him better than they have the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I think so much about this week in particular and previewing these games is like how much to adjust for the opponents, because you don't really know how good the opponents are going to be the rest of the year. And yet I feel comfortable saying that Denver and LA, having to face them as the 2 pass rushes to start the year, is about as brutal as it gets. And I've been a little disappointed by the Colts up front. They didn't have Leatu Latu last week, so we'll see if he comes back this week. But I do think it's problematic, and a lot of things are problematic right now for Brian Callahan. I don't know if you've been tracking Titans Nation, but I think their patience for Brian Callahan is growing thin. And one thing I would back them up on is, if you have the one thing you talk about the most and that you back up with your draft picks and like what you're going to be all about, and that's not working well, that's a major problem for the head coach. And that's what I think about the Callahans. Everyone thought it was going to be such a turnaround when he hired his dad, and then all the first round picks and the free agent money that they've put there. And yeah, they've had some injuries, but that's maybe the number one thing in pass pro, especially, that is letting them down.
All right. I'm going to actually look up the name of the right tackle. John Ojukwu was his name. Yeah, I mean, almost all of the, I don't know. There are instances where Ward takes a little too long to throw, but there's a lot where he's not, man. Like, there's a lot where it's just immediate pressure. You mentioned the Colts defense, obviously getting Latu back is helpful. It also felt like last week the Broncos discovered Xavier Howard at some point during the game and just started going at him. I could see that. Like, there are weaknesses. The Colts defense has been injured in the back and the secondary. They have good players. They have improved players. I think Lou Anarumo is a good hire, but there's definitely areas you can attack on this team. To me, it just comes down to whether or not Ward will have the time.
Right. Injuries at cornerback have hurt them. They hope to get Charvarius Ward back this week, which would, be absolutely huge for them. I also just don't think Cam Ward's playing with a full deck. Tyler Lockett has 9 yards in 2 weeks. I heard someone that was at that camp that had their doubts about how Lockett was going to fare this year, and he immediately is like losing snaps. Van Jefferson's not even playing for them. A.O. Manor looks like they found someone, which is really hard to do with a 4th round pick. He also had a great catch up the sidelines right before that. And he's like kind of like what everyone's looking for in terms of a wide receiver that can block. Like he is a tight end out there, just like hammering people. So that's what this season is about, is just like finding the guys to build around. But it is crazy like how much of a mismatch this feels like. Maybe the Colts come back to earth. I do want to mention, because I think for 5 straight years on this show I've mentioned how you made fun of me. I think it was during the pandemic, for writing an article about Danny Dimes and Drew Lock right after their rookie season.
You cannot be taking a victory lap on Danny
I'm
Dimes
not.
through
I'm
week
just
2.
saying, never wrong, just early. You never
Where was
know.
this take last year? Where was this take at the end of his Giants tenure? Come on.
My take
No,
was always he's like around league average, and that's better than people think. So
well, I
maybe he's
already
got a
did
chance.
my Dimes. I gave my Dimes thoughts earlier this week, and there was more about like the decision to go with him, right? And obviously he's been really good. I think this is gonna sound like damning with faint praise, and it's not, or negging. But the way I truly feel is, even if the play under pressure and deep ball comes back to earth, which I kind of think it will, his accuracy underneath has always been something he's been able to do, and it's proven to be very useful in a Colts offense that is stacked with playmakers. So this does feel, it might not be as explosive moving forward, but there is a baseline with this Colts offense that does feel sustainable to me. Also, Jonathan Taylor is so sick.
Right, and Tyler Warren is so sick, and like
Downs and Pittman and Pierce. I mean, they're such a good team. The offensive line looks really good. I'm picking the Colts in this game. I imagine you are too.
I am taking the Colts, yes, on the road.
All right. Yeah. So, but Ward, excited about Titans fans. I'm sure they're excited, right? Like based on, because what a gauntlet, you know. All right, you have the backup bowl.
Oh boy.
Jake Browning, Carson Wentz. There was a moment in last week's Vikings game on Monday Night Football where Carson Wentz showed up he like popped into the camera on the sideline. It was such a jump scare for me. I forgot that he was on the Vikings, but it turned out to be a harbinger because he is starting in this game, which makes it tricky to pick.
Yes.
Or to even pick a key, I guess, but that's on you because this is your game.
Well, my key is kind of looking at both teams, and it does bring you back to their offseason when they, JJ McCarthy is your starter and you don't really bring in a veteran. They went through the offseason with Sam Howell and I think it was Brett Rippon on their roster. Now Brett Rippon is actually Jake Browning's backup with the Bengals. I'm just putting that together. So that plan did not work at all, and you have to call Carson Wentz a couple of days before the season starts. Like, that's bad. Which coach, my big key is, has the better plan offensively for their quarterback? You would lean Zach Taylor, who I think did his best job as a coach when Browning started 7 games. And you texted me earlier this week how he was 8th in QBR over that stretch. They actually had a winning record over that stretch. He is surprisingly aggressive. He's a Ryan Fitzpatrick type of backup who goes for it, which I like. I think that ultimately works better. But he's obviously got the much tougher matchup in this compared to Carson Wentz. And Kevin O'Connell has a great history of making the Nick Mullinses or Josh Dobbs for a little bit and these backup quarterbacks look good for a short period. And he's going to have so much more protection, I believe, going up against the Bengals, and many more answers. That it's a very difficult one to choose, but I trust Jake Browning a lot more than Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I mean, same process for me. Jake Browning, we've seen him do it in this offense. They've been competent before. You still got these great weapons, but you're going up against such a better defense. So it's really, because I think Minnesota, so Aaron Jones has been IR'd, yeah. So he's out for a little bit. I actually think Jordan Mason could go crazy in this game. Like, I love this matchup. I think he's a really good back. And I know they've had issues with the offensive line, but I think this could be a great get-right game for the Vikings run game. So you take in, Wentz did not look great last year when he came in, and he has way less experience in this offense. And I feel like he could absolutely turn the football over. So it's tricky. I think I'm going to go with Cincinnati just purely because of the quarterback continuity, but I don't feel great about it because of that defensive matchup at all.
Same. And I was surprised to see that they're as big an underdog this week as they are, and it's because of the defense because of the offensive line, which they're ranked very low in terms of pass rush, pass block win rate. The Vikings, you can run on them a little bit, or at least that's the way to attack Brian Flores. So I'd like to see a little bit of Chase Brown, but I don't know. I can't trust Carson Wentz in a big spot in the year 2025. And if he does play well, like you do start wondering, like, is everyone happy for a week or two that JJ McCarthy
I
goes
know there's
away?
that
That
weird level as
it's a
well. I
weird
know.
thing.
Yeah, the dynamic. I know there's all these conspiracy theories about how is JJ McCarthy really injured? Or they, I don't believe those, but all right. Rams Eagles.
Hmm.
This is now a good game. We are talking both sides of this divisional round rematch. So I'm on the Eagles who are at home. There's two things that I'm interested in, but I'll focus on one. Can they attack them downfield?
Mm.
Uh, the Eagles offense has not thrown the ball well through 2 weeks of the season. Jalen Hurts has very few completions over 10 yards. We can talk about whether that's for lack of trying or AJ Brown has been a non-factor outside of just catching like 20 slants. And they go up against a Rams defense that has a very good pass rush, but is vulnerable on the back end. The cornerback group is not the strongest. They just lost to Kello Witherspoon, so I think you're going to see Emmanuel Forbes in this one. And look, it's Emmanuel Forbes, so they might just be like, let's make him tackle and run it. That's what I would do. But I think I have not rung the alarm bell yet on this
Mm.
Eagles offense because they're still running the ball so well. It's looked pretty bad. Underwhelming is the word early on. So this to me is an opportunity because you might have to go toe to toe with this Rams offense. We talk about the other side of the ball, and I don't think that the way they've played thus far is going to cut it.
Right, because you make some opponent adjustments on both sides. That the Rams, I think, are second in defensive EPA, but they played that Texans offensive line, and then last week they played Cam Ward and the Titans. But on the other side, like the Eagles have played two defenses I'm not overly impressed with in Dallas and Kansas City, and it's strange. You do wonder about the change in play caller to Kevin Patullo, and it seems right now that defenses are ready for what Philadelphia is sending their way. You just don't see AJ Brown and Devontae Smith open on film either, like, which doesn't make any sense. And so to me, that comes a little back to coaching. And I do think this Rams defense, even though it's been a good matchups early, they've always been a little better than the sum of their parts in the back end. Like Chris Shula, their defensive coordinator, I think got it going late last year. And I do think they're going to be better than maybe the preseason projections over the course of this season overall.
The other thing I would emphasize with this Eagles offense is they got to be prepared for pressure. In the divisional round, they blitzed Hurts 30% of the time. The Shula has proven to be pretty creative when he does and doesn't send pressure. It's coming to simulated pressures, whatnot. And in this last game against Steve Spagnuolo defense that sent a ton of heat, they were not great against the blitz. And I went back and watched every Jalen Hurts passing attempt against the blitz, and the last 8 or so, AJ slant, incomplete hitch, AJ slant, underthrown go ball, nice little play action pass to Granson, AJ slant, and then the prayer go ball. My kingdom for something other than an AJ Brown slant. I mean, my God,
I feel like every Eagles conversation is just a conversation that we had a couple of years ago. Like every Jalen Hurts conversation comes back to how he handles the blitz,
I'm not
and
putting this one on.
we're back there. No, I mean, but we're back there.
Yeah.
I think he's shown when he's had some answers that he can succeed doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think they'll be able to run the ball in the end. Like I said, I mentioned Forbes. He's my size. So yeah, you're gonna run on him. And they've been running a lot, it's been a lot of outside zone.
Ooh. It's a Forbes revenge game. I didn't even think about that. Forbes versus AJ Brown was the game that essentially ended Emmanuel Forbes' career in Washington as a first-round pick, and he is having a little renaissance there for the Rams. So that would be interesting if that's a matchup.
Forbes and Devontae Smith need to swap jerseys in this one because they might be the only guys who are the same size in the NFL. You're on the Rams. What you got? I got something I want to get to with this.
Okay,
see if you the same thing.
I was shocked to see that Stafford, according to Next Gen Stats, has faced the most quick pressure of any quarterback in the NFL. And my question with this, like, is the Eagles pass rush gonna be good enough right now to make that really matter? And the Rams have been down a couple offensive linemen. It looks like they will be again this week, although it's early. We're not sure, because Zadarius Smith had more quarterback hits plus sacks than Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt had, in the entire season combined. In about like 15 snaps, he had that compared to their 120 snaps. And then hearing Vic Fangio mention this week how Jalen Carter wasn't in good shape and he did not have a good game against the Chiefs was interesting to me. So I think the Rams are catching them at a good time where they just don't feel very fully formed. The Eagles weren't at this point a year ago, and I wonder if their pass rush is good enough to be, to get that quick pressure on Stafford.
Yeah, that I wrote. Well, I get to one other thing, but Jalen Carter needs to take over this game the way he did in push around, because quick pressure is the way to get to Stafford up the middle. He called game last time, and you're right. He hasn't looked. Obviously, he didn't play week 1, but you need a level of, because of the youth and the change on the defensive line. You need him to be dominant for this whole thing to work, I think, against better offenses in the NFL. And the Rams certainly, I mean, Matthew Stafford is just like balling out of control right now for those. I mean, he's making some of the stupidest throws. Well, along those lines, there's one other thing I wanted to hit with the Rams. Can they attack Adoree Jackson? Because again, not to overemphasize the divisional round, but people forgot Quinyon Mitchell got hurt in that game. And one thing that caught my eye looking back, Puka Nacua. So you think Puka Nacua, usually he's in the slot, Cooper Jean's elite. They lined him up wide a lot against the Eagles. They were very consciously trying to get him away from DeJean. I felt the majority of his targets were split out wide. He was in a wide alignment, and he was on Darius Slay. In fact, 52% of Stafford's targets in that game were to receivers lined up wide, which is way above his average. It's not, So the combination of him and Devontae Adams, who looks amazing as well, it's going to be a handful, because it's not just like, great, we got Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. The Rams are smart. They're going to get them away from Cooper DeJean, and I think that could be a problem for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it is so funny to me to think about that they looked at Matthew Stafford this offseason and dared him to leave and made him take a contract that I think is 17th among quarterbacks in average salary. And they got Devontae Adams to sign for something around like Christian Kirk to Calvin Ridley money, like 20th. I mean, I don't know what they were doing in these negotiations, but you're absolutely right. I think McVay is very excited. This game, not that one team's going to try harder than the other, as my co-host Patrick Claybon likes to point out, but I do think the Rams would love to win this game after they were embarrassed in the regular season last week too. That's the way that they could lose, is just Saquon runs all over them.
Did you see that Kyle Hamilton quote where he was asked about bulletin board material? He was like, "So you think I'm going to try harder now or something?" It was one of the best quotes I've seen in a minute. Okay. God, I was on the Eagles, but now this conversation, I might take the Rams.
I was leaning that too, based on this conversation, which I don't like if both of us are on the underdog. I do think they're catching them at the right time. I feel like the Rams have started this season a little more cohesive, so I'll go Rams.
All right, you have Steelers, Pats. Just you.
I am excited to see how Aaron Rodgers handles pressure in this game, because it's been erratic, I would say, through 2 weeks. And the Patriots defense, which has stunk overall, you mentioned it earlier, getting that pass rush against Miami. Their pass rush has actually been quite good. They haven't blitzed too much overall through 2 weeks, and their pressure rate is really high. Milton Williams has looked good. Caleb on Chason is having a little renaissance after having some good snaps last year. And Harold Landry's been good for them. So if you get pressure on Aaron Rodgers, like what is he going to do? Because for a guy that doesn't want to get hit, and he clearly doesn't want to get hit, he's sure getting hit a lot. Like, he is taking a lot of big hits and not throwing the ball deep at all, which is a bad combination.
Yeah, I feel like people who haven't watched complete Steelers games are being misled by the Aaron Rodgers highlights, because there still are highlights.
They're
like
awesome.
He's actually, like every 4 times a game, he'll make a sick throw off platform. and he looks kind of spry, and he's still got unbelievable arm talent. The problem is consistency. It's not there, and they can't really run the ball, right? So it's just a very disjointed offense, and I'm with you. Like, I mean, the Seahawks killed him. Killed him.
Hmm.
He was under pressure constantly in that game. And then anytime he had to hold the ball for more than 2.5 seconds, there was like 2 highlights and a bunch of really ugly reps. I mean, Steelers gotta get better running the football. To me, that's Caleb Johnson, 3rd round draft pick. Jalen Warren's looked better, obviously, early on. They gotta get better running the football, and they gotta stop the run.
Right, and I thought this young offensive line for them was promising. Broderick Jones has not played well overall. It just hasn't played well on either side. Like Jalen Warren looks good. We can get to the Steelers defense if you want, but I do want to point out, like, there should be holes. There might not be a worse linebacker group through 2 weeks than Robert Spillane and Christian Ellis. Like, the Patriots secondary without Christian Gonzalez has been a complete mess. In the middle of the field is so slow and wide open. So you do wonder if, you can get DK with some run after the catch, or Calvin Austin over the middle, or all those tight ends. Because, like, despite the defensive line playing well, it hasn't really mattered because there's just like holes everywhere at safety and linebacker especially.
Yeah, I like DK Metcalf in this game. I think he's looked good to me early on. The Steelers defense, though, good Lord. What
Crazy,
the hell?
right?
Okay, so obviously there's been a lot of talk. We talked even earlier this week about the run defense and the reasons why. They just look old, man. I think, and by the way, Cam Hayward was, I know I'm like a little bit of a stan. He was the best player on Sunday by far. He was the only one. He was getting in the backfield a few times. There was a couple times where he made it. He almost had Sam Darnold dead to rights, and Darnold managed to pull off a throw, and then like 20 guys missed tackles behind him.
Yeah, and I'm sure one of them was Patrick Queen, who it just feels like he's over pursuing every single play. The Patriots showed last week, they can take advantage, I think, and be a little bit of a game plan offense, which is interesting with Mac, with Josh McDaniels, that they really changed up what they did week 2 to week 1. So I think about those matchups back in the day when McDaniels was facing Tomlin. And I just think there's holes here. Keanu Benton's a problem. Their safety position's a problem. And yeah, you mentioned they look slow.
Like maybe not a nose, like they're maybe he's miscast in this defense right now. I like your point about the Patriots too and their offense switching things up. I thought it was interesting to see some of the tweaks they had. More May under center, getting the downhill run game going. I'm going to take the Steelers in this one because I think that Rodgers is going to be able to. I like generally Aaron Rodgers against flawed defenses. And I think the Pats have a flawed defense. So I'm going to take the Steelers in this one.
I don't feel confident at all, but I'm going to pick the Patriots just because if they win and I didn't pick it, I'll feel like an idiot. And I just want to congratulate me for not bringing up Drake May in this conversation.
I just did the Bill Simmons podcast, and he managed to make it like 25 minutes before bringing up Drake May, which I feel like has to be a record for his podcast. Okay, Vegas Commanders. So let's just talk about the most important thing. Jane Daniels might not play in this game. You have the update on practice. What was it again?
He won't practice until Friday at the earliest. He did not meet with the media either.
Doesn't bode well. So you're getting Marcus Mariota against a Vegas defense. I didn't talk about them because I was so focused on the Geno meltdown on Monday. Raiders defense hasn't been that bad, man. Like, I actually think that one of the units that has kind of outperformed expectations. It'd be one thing if it was Daniels, but Mariota against this Raiders defense. If it's Mariota, I like the Raiders in this one.
Wow.
What? How is that a wow? It's Marcus Mariota.
I guess you're right. And it's Geno Smith. I have Mariota's 2024 tape in my head. He looked good. He looked good in that system. I think as backup quarterbacks go, especially he seems to fit Cliff well. I think he's a good backup quarterback. You're right. I should be buying more into the Raiders defense because they fulfill one of the things I think about a lot, where I know individual players aren't trying hard based on the opponent. They're not trying harder. I do think on defense there is something to not trying harder, but playing with energy and aggression as an entire unit. You can see it. It can make up for the difference in talent I think that the Raiders have. And I think you see that. And maybe I shouldn't be shocked with Patrick Graham and Pete Carroll coaching them.
Yeah, I thought the corners played way better than I expected to. McConkey was open here and there, and Johnston beat them, and he had that cover 3 beater where it was kind of a cool route, and I don't remember which cornerback it was who kind of blew it there, but I agree. Geno against this defense, I think we could have a bounce back that nobody sees.
We will
It's
see
gonna
it. We
it's
we
gonna
need
take
to we need to come back here.
I don't know if we're ever gonna build back if Geno Nation can repair the wreckage Monday.
He's really had some bad primetime games. He's had a couple good ones too, but he's had some
Yeah.
bad primetime games, which I think has hurt the narrative. That was, I think, his worst start since he became the Seahawks
Yeah, I think
starter.
so. Yeah.
And you just want to, it didn't really make sense because he was just missing throws that were there. I do think he got a little scrambled by what Jesse Minter does. And I do not think Dan Quinn will do the same in terms of keeping the top over the defense. And it's a lot more man to man. I think Geno will be more comfortable.
Well, I also think hopefully Bowers is just healthier in this
Mhm.
one, which was a big problem for them. So I'm taking Vegas here. Unless Daniels starts, then I'm flipping to Washington.
I will take the Commanders. They have the biggest possible rest advantage, like on the East Coast with 5 days extra rest, which is, not. I think that matters maybe a little early in the season. And I just like that Cliff Kingsbury and Chip Kelly are the offensive coordinators in this game. That makes it watchable to me.
That is fun. All right, before the break, one more Jets Bucks. This is you.
All right. My question, and we got the news on Wednesday morning that Justin Fields will be out for this game officially. So it's Tyrod. I don't know if we know what Tyrod's going to give us, but he's been pretty consistent as, a backup. He's getting up there in years. I'm going to focus more on the side that I feel like I know more about after 2 weeks, which is just, can Aaron Glenn adjust? Can he do something on defense? Because I just think offenses see what's coming from a mile away, and they've got some talent deficiencies too. And so I think he's going to need to adjust for them to stay close in this game.
Yeah, I was curious to see what this marriage between him and Steve Wilks looks like, and I felt like coming into the season there was enough talent on the defense that while I didn't think they would be a top, even above average unit, I thought we would see pretty significant improvement from last year. The early returns have been really bad. I mean, to your eye, what is the biggest, if you had to single out the biggest issue with the Jets defense, what do you think it is?
Well, communication, just like bust, which is crazy because they're not that multiple of a defense. They're kind of showing you what they're going to do. And then I think it's some specific players. I think it's Brandon Stevens, which always seemed like a crazy contract.
Shocking development. Yeah, right.
And then Jamie Sherwood and Quincy Williams together seems like a bad combination. But Jamie Sherwood especially has been like, he was all over the place though in like over the last couple weeks where he has been between him and Michael Clemens and Brandon Stevens. I feel like those three players have been involved in almost every bad play that the Jets have had.
Yeah, I think the Bucks will be able to move the ball on them with ease. I think that Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, the two-headed monster, are going to have a field day against this group. So that Baker's not even going to, I think that he's not going to be in that many third and longs against them. Pretty easy Bucks win for me, even if Tyrod wasn't starting, but he is starting. I hope he plays out well. I mean, I love it. My affinity for him is well documented. I just don't love anything about this.
I don't either because the Bucks' run defense is typically great, as it always is with Todd Bowles, and that's what they want to do. There's no Kalijah Kancey. He's now out for the season. Yeah. I think the Jets are going to make them sweat. I don't know why. I'm probably holding on too hard to my Jets are going to be frisky prediction from before the season.
Look good in week 1.
Yeah, I do think they'll come back to earth, and the Bucks have had to. They're not where they were offensively because of injuries at skill position. So I actually think this will be like a tough end of the game sequence, but I trust Baker in those situations.
Unless Baker decides to throw it on a 2-point conversion. Right. All right, let's take a quick break, come back, and do an AFC South battle that deserves our full attention. Texans Jags fighting for second place. Well, Yeah, right? Second place. The Colts have very commanding AFC stat standings. I guess it depends on what happens. Anyways, I digress. The AFC South is now okay. Sorry, the Jags are 1-1, so the Texans won. They be tied. The Texans trying to get off the schneid. Let's position it that way. All right. So I'm on the Jags side of this. You're on the Texans. Why don't you go first? Because this Texans season thus far has been very I don't want to say unpleasant. I would say it just feels like deja vu in a way that I am not enjoying personally.
Yeah, unsatisfying, unsettling, unnerving. I want my thing is can we just get like a happy CJ Stroud sideline shot where we've become a Texans household for some reason because my son's a fan and then now we're all in on it. And
why did he move off the Rams?
it's just my daughter's a Rams fan, my son's a Texans fan, so it's very confusing what's happening. But we root for the kids as teams, and it's been a very tough matchup the first couple of weeks for the Texans, but Jacksonville has a pretty good pass rush too, and I do think it's on Houston, Nick Caley, CJ Stroud to come up with quicker answers, and especially in terms of protection, because Campanile, the Jaguars defensive coordinator, has sent some pretty fun little blitzes. He's from that Jeff Hoffley world where he's throwing a lot out there. It hasn't all worked, but they'll throw a lot at this offensive line, and they need to have solutions. They will have a couple receivers back this week in Christian Kirk and Braxton Berrios, which is a good sign.
I think, how dare you loop in Braxton Berrios with Christian
Kirk. Returner / fifth receiver.
No, I think maybe I'm delusional, but I think Christian Kirk returning is actually sneaky important for this Texans offense because it just felt I complained about this on Tuesday. It just feels like Stroud has no easy buttons right now in this offense, and I do think they signed him with the intention of having him be that underneath option, the chains mover, the Tank Dell replacement, the quick game guy, and obviously hasn't been available. So I really hope that his improvement helps in that regard. Yeah, so I'm on the other side. I got my eye on Brian Thomas Jr. in this one. Can we get a bounce back? Because he's going up against one of the best secondaries in the NFL, so he's probably going to get a lot of Stingley Jr., so he's going to be challenged. I'm sure he's heard the noise over what happened last week. Where are you on the hospital ball versus giving up discourse, which I've managed to avoid?
I unfortunately and unknowingly stepped into it without even realizing that it was a thing at the time. Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence has been one of the most consistently inaccurate quarterbacks since the day he entered the league. And because of that, he often does put his receivers into bad positions because he's late.
You were also very high on Brian Thomas. You were the Brian Thomas Jr. guy, the draft last year. Yeah, I mean, the truth lies somewhere in the middle, right? Like Lawrence is late, but also Thomas Jr. was really awful, I thought, in this last game. And yeah.
He's been pretty bad since the start of camp, by all accounts. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you don't know what to think about when you hear that. John Shipley, who I know who covers them for SI on Jaguars, he's the one that just kept mentioning all throughout camp. It's just been strange how bad of a connection Thomas Jr. and Lawrence has had, like a ton of drops. If you watch the preseason games, it happened in the preseason games too. So something strange is going on. And yeah, there was his post-game interview last week. They asked him if he has confidence, and his answer did not sound like a guy with a lot of confidence right now. You don't even want to psychoanalyze, but the second year expectations, he's not meeting them right now. So a lot of it is on him.
Also, the number 2 overall draft pick, Travis Hunter. I mean, what are you laughing about?
Nothing. Go on. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, can we get a target for my guy over 10 yards in this one? Like the when they drafted him, setting aside all of the he's gonna play on both sides of the ball kind of thing and whatnot, which I feel like early on looks like a mistake. Again, it's a long season and a long career. Well, I'm just, when every player says it's probably too much to put on a guy's plate, maybe they know a little thing or two about the difficulty of playing in the NFL and the challenges that focus. I mean, I am not like calling it on Travis Hunter by any means. It's week 2 and I still think he's a really special talent, but it would have been nice for him to just focus on playing receiver. I'm just saying, I'm not even saying he was, I think the PI on him at the end of the game was a little bit soft, but I'm just, like anyways. But when I think about him at Colorado, yeah, there was screens and hitches and whatnot, but like he's also unbelievable downfield. He's like he has amazing hands. He's like a credible body control guy, and like I just feel like that the combination of those two players should be so much more dynamic than it's been early on. Jags have been able to run the football really well. That continues. Tootin looks great. I think that's going to be important for them, obviously, against this Texans defensive line. And maybe they'll be able to pop off a few screens the way Tampa did. But, like, God, can we get a little bit more? I mean, he was, like, it's just been underwhelming early on. That's all.
I laughed because as much as I was a Brian Thomas Jr. guy, everyone was a Travis Hunter guy, but I just felt like I will still buy up all the Travis Hunter stock, and I think this is going to be incredible long term. And I know, like,
You mean
I,
him playing both positions is going to be incredible long term?
I
You feel that way?
I do. I don't know how it's gonna work out long term, but I just think he's gonna be an incredible asset. Look, he's already doing it. He actually played more snaps on defense last
Yeah,
week than he did on offense, 44 to 43.
right.
I went back because I am wondering why this isn't working. I thought he looked really good at cornerback actually last week, and it does make you think maybe they should have started out with majoring in that because at receiver they're just manufacturing some touches for him, but he is not really in the flow of the offense.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence has looked good throwing to the other guys. The other three guys, Parker Washington, De'Ami Brown, and Brenton Stange, they're getting off, but it doesn't seem like at receiver maybe he's playing with the speed.
That's my point. It's not that like he's a bad corner or a bad receiver. It's like, hey, maybe with rookies we should let them just do one thing and do it really well. And yeah, I think like I said, I thought he looked good at corner, and I thought the PI was dumb, but it just looks like too much right now. That's all I'm saying. I'm going Houston here. I think this is the game they win. I think the defense, which has been awesome through 2 weeks, is outmatches Jacksonville on offense.
Yeah, I'll go Houston as well. It's a really big moment for the Texans in their season. Going to 0-3 with the way this division is shaping up would be really tough. The vibe, like it's one of the biggest tests of D'Amico Ryans' career. They were in a very similar spot, by the way, in this exact week 0-2 against the Jaguars a year ago, and managed to win that game.
Falcons, Panthers, moving from the AFC South to the NFC South. This is you. Very insane Bryce Young game last week. It was you really had to watch the whole game. some ups, some downs, or more like some downs, some ups, then a down. What are you watching for in this one?
I'm watching Michael Penix. I would love to live in a world where the Falcons are number 1 in defensive EPA per play and DVOA after week 3, which is very much on the table, and it's just a crazy world to be living in. But I think Penix hasn't gotten a lot of attention this year because of the defenses that he's faced. This rejuvenated Todd Bowles defense for the Bucs and then the Vikings in back-to-back weeks. I am really impressed. I think the second-year leap is happening. I just think he's so good from the neck up, doing next-level stuff and understanding where pressure is coming from and when to get rid of the ball. He just looks like a veteran quarterback, and we know that there will be flashy plays, and he's gonna miss some throws. That's who he is too. But overall, like, I just have been impressed, and I think he could go off in this game, and the improvement will show up more against a defense like this.
Michael Penix currently behind Bryce Young in average depth of target, which is, I think, to your point, a lot of it is a reflection of the defenses they've played. And this is an opportunity for them to go crazy through the air, in my opinion, because I think the Panthers defense stinks. Yeah, I mean, last week against JJ McCarthy in prime time, the speed at which they were playing was so glaring. The contrast, pardon me, in the speed, like And it's not like I was joking afterwards to Nate and Danny, like JJ made Michael Penix look like a machine out there, like because he was just so ponderous, right, with some of his reps. But he does have a really quick release, and it looks really good. And he, um, those outbreakers, it looks as good as ever. I would love to see him use the middle of the field more in this
Hmm.
one. I would love to see him use Drake London on deep, long developing concepts. Uh, but yeah, I mean, Bijan Robinson against his run defense, come on, like he's gonna go crazy too. I feel like it. Do you feel? Are you frustrated watching Bijan? Bijan, he's back to Bijan, because we joke about everybody has the same take, like, wow, he's making like these are like the coolest 4 and 5 yard runs you've ever seen. But it should be so much more. Like, he's so good, and when you watch him, you feel like he's still being hamstrung. I don't know if it's by the scheme, not having him under center, blocking. Like, what do you think watching him that's holding us back?
That he's gotten better each and every year, which is saying something because he started at a high level, and the numbers would back that up in terms of forcing him his tackles and just the rate numbers. I do think a lot of it has been trying to help this offensive line and right tackle survive in these first two opponents, and I think they've played winning football. Like, I was so impressed with how they handled the end of the Bucs game on offense. They were nails in that fourth quarter in a lot of tough situations where their line wasn't playing well. So the short answer is offensive line, and that I think it's going to get a lot better when the opponents get easier.
Yeah, I mean, also, if they once again showed a willingness to push the ball downfield, that would help a little bit. On the other side, I am not buying the complete, like that the Falcons defense is what their numbers are thus far. But I do think that they are a tough matchup for a Panthers offensive line that is missing now Robert Hunt and Austin Corbett, just brutal injuries. Yeah, it's just Bryce Young's got a tough sledding ahead of him with that line. Looked like it. Even though he played a lot better in the second half this past week, I'm pretty worried for him moving forward.
Yeah, losing those two linemen are massive because they were such a good team running the ball this year or last year, and they really haven't been this year. They need that. It's such a cliff after Teteroa McMillan in terms of who is their second weapon.
Yeah,
It's still one of the worst rosters in football. It's sad to say, but it just is.
McMillan looks amazing, so
He
at
looks
least they
great.
got that going
They
for
hit
them.
that.
I'm on the Falcons here. You as well?
I'm on the Falcons big. I love this Raheem Jeff Ulbrich marriage. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, defense is playing well. I don't mean to diminish them too much. I just think JJ McCarthy holding the football for 20 seconds helps as well. All right. Sorry, Minnesota fans. This is a great game. Broncos Chargers. This is one of the best games of the week. You have the Broncos. You go first.
Yeah, which Patrick Surtain is out there? Seems like
Ooh.
well, it just seems like a stupid point to talk about an injured guy, but he left with which didn't
Yeah.
look like a great ankle injury last week, and then came back in, and they were targeting him. I mean, Pittman beat him a couple times, Warren beat him, like they were throwing at him, and it wasn't a good defensive performance for the Broncos. Their pressure wasn't getting there consistently enough, despite sending, I think, a 70% blitz rate. I mean, you're a wild man, Vance Joseph. But if Surtain is not Surtain because of he's not 100% or he's just not playing well, they just don't look the same as a defense.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos man coverage was really exposed that week, and when you lose like your elite player, it kind of has a chain reaction effect,
Mm-hmm.
because now they don't have to stay away from his side of the field necessarily. I mean, the Broncos, I think I talked about. No, I don't think I talked about it on the spot. The linebackers were really exposed against Indianapolis, and I have to think Gregg Roman is going to attack them pretty mercilessly. Roman's also been really good at drawing up plays against man coverage. They're really good at finding ways to spring Lad McConkey open against those looks. So I think schematically, this is going to be a really interesting one for Roman, because I think we're going to once again see Justin Herbert air it out a little bit, which has been kind of a funny development this season. And yeah, I think I wrote on the other side for the Chargers, can Jesse Minter put Bo Nix in the walls of Jericho? I mean,
That's it. You're right.
Yeah.
Like, can Bo be patient? Because he hasn't been, I don't think, through 2 weeks. I thought his tape against the Colts was not as good as I expected when I rewatched it down the stretch of that game.
I think we talked about this with the Chargers defense. You got to do two things. You got to run them out of those looks, and then you got to beat them downfield with like a big ball winner.
Mm.
I don't think that the Broncos will do both of those things consistently. They could run the ball on them. The Chargers have gone up against two extremely anemic rushing attacks. So as good as the defense has looked, and they have looked awesome, the Chiefs and the Raiders have maybe like bottom 5 run games right now in the NFL, right? Like, it feels fair. Denver hypothetically should be better at running the football, even than they've been, I would argue. So to me, that's how, you keep Bo Nix out of those 3rd and longs. You have to we know the style of football that the Chargers defense wants to play. Can you run it on them? I think is the key to making this competitive for them.
I was surprised last week, too, that they went so heavy J.K. Dobbins, not a lot of
Yeah.
R.J. Harvey after he closed out week 1. And Tyler Batty's in the game in key spots, too. So they will drive fantasy owners crazy. The receivers will, too. That is a great big brain matchup, Sean Payton versus Jesse Minter, kind of the old versus the new. And yeah, I think it's on Bo Nix to kind of just like take the plays that are there, because you gave me the phrase "too much dip," on the chip, which I have stolen and occasionally use. I feel like he went to Costco and bought like a family level of dip this offseason, and Bo Nix is just out there like trying to make these Patrick Mahomes say plays all the time, and it's just like it's a little too much. It's a little too much.
Yeah. His legs could be a big factor as well. But yeah, this is all about just get 5 yards of play, man. Just 5 yards of play. You gotta be able to just grind it against this defense. I think I looked at the Chargers schedule. I was like, who could really challenge them? And they really match up well with most of their opponents defensively because of the style of play. Khalil Mack's injury is obviously a big deal here, but yeah, I'm gonna go Chargers in this one.
Man,
Tempted to take the Broncos because I think the defense could bounce back a little bit, but until Dre Greenlaw is up and running, I'm pretty concerned about this linebacker group.
yeah, they got good news on Mac that it apparently he's going to be back in a couple weeks, which I was shocked by. I thought was going to be longer. I will go Broncos. I think the Chargers have clearly looked better this season. I just imagine this being a 2. I guess I can't imagine a world where the Chargers are 3-0 and just be all 3 division opponents and everything is so good that they're 2 games up on the Broncos and the Chiefs. Like I'm not ready to like put my mind that world can exist.
All right, Saints Seahawks is just me. So it's Spencer Rattler and the Saints, who are 0-2 against the 1-1 Sam Darnold-led Seahawks. I wrote, can the Seahawks run defense show up again the way that they have? So far through the first 2 weeks of the season, the Seahawks are 5th in run defense, 5th in EPA per play, 7th in success rate, 6th in yards per carry. And, yes, that was against the Steelers, but also against Christian McCaffrey and the Niners week 1. And they go up against the Saints offense that has been still pretty good at running the football. I mean, Alvin Kamara looks good out
Looks
there.
great.
Yeah. Sneaky trade potential there, by the way. Kamara, right, like the Saints will ever give up. And then Rattler himself using his legs has also been a problem, and I think that's something to watch out for because he has had some scrambles in big moments. So to me, like, if is this going to be competitive? Well, if the Saints can run the ball, I could see it being competitive. So let's see if the Seahawks can keep stopping it the way that they have.
Yeah, my opinion that I will be bringing up whenever they talk about Alvin Kamara for Canton one day is that his numbers over the last 4-5 years specifically should be so much better, that he is so much better of a player and still more explosive than you think, like not long speed, but the short area quickness. He is so good. And they haven't really, their offensive line hasn't looked great. Fuaga admitted he's playing through an injury and it's looked like a patella injury in terms of his knee. They've actually given up the second most amount of quick pressures in the league. I mentioned Stafford was the most. So Rattler has done a good job surviving, but this is another order of magnitude, difficult defense, I think, to go up against for their run game and for Rattler.
We taking the Seahawks, I presume, here?
Yeah.
All right. Same.
You liking the Darnold era? Like, this is your time. You were part of the hive.
It's not. He's been such a minimal factor. No, I just like I'm not. He's made a few impressive throws. He's made a few boneheaded mistakes, but like think about this last game. They ran the ball really well against Pittsburgh. I think that's going to be. I mean, that's the way that Kubiak wants to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they can do it against good run defense is, to me, is just going to be the single biggest factor in determining whether or not they can move the ball on offense. Defense absolutely slaps. So, but Sam Darnold, I mean, yeah, like can he protect the football, and then can he hit JSN on some of those play action passes? That's kind of going to be the question every game, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought he played well this last week. I don't think he was like spectacular. How did you feel watching him?
No, I agree with all that. I don't know why. I just felt I wanted your Darnold take after the heartbreak of losing Geno.
I know. Geno was way better week 1. Darnold was way better week 2. If people are trying to
don't keep doing this, Seahawks fans and Steven Ruiz out there. It's a losing game.
Do that. All right, you have sneaky important Cowboys Bears game. I've enjoyed the process of every NFL nerd watching Caleb Williams and defending him this week. It's been
now I feel like seen because I totally did on our last NFL Daily.
Well, was like, you go first. This is your game.
Yeah, I do think it's on Caleb and Ben Johnson to target the middle of the field against this Cowboys defense, which had so many problems a week ago. But I would start with the Kenneth Murray, Jack Sanborn, Leah Fowl combination that's going on. And I just think the Bears, with this head coach and Caleb, who's had very good games in the NFL, it's not like it's all been like average or below. I think they have enough mismatches where this should be like a Colston Loveland game. This should be a DJ Moore, like out of the slot type of game over the middle of the field.
Totally agree. I mentioned Kamara as like a potential trade target. Chicago Bears, please trade for running back. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. Bears running back, DeAndre Swift, worst success rate in football right now. All their run numbers right now are skewed by Caleb Williams. You need to, if you're going through those stats, team rushing stats, you got to take out the quarterback. They can't run the ball. And watching him, a lot of it is on him, right? Like I'm sorry, but it's just so lackluster at this point. And this offense isn't going to succeed unless they can at least run it at an average. I'm not asking them to be Detroit. I'm not asking, like it's just an average level. Looks like it was a huge mistake for them, by the way, GM, not to pursue it back this year in either the draft or free agency.
There's a few mistakes by that GM that are on this roster.
On the flip side, how about the Javonte Williams revival? I think he's going to go crazy in this game because the Bears can't stop the run at all.
Did not see that coming. And yeah, I have not heard anyone as annoyed with DeAndre Swift since the Lions coaches in Hard Knocks a few years ago when they would still give us some good clips. They seemed
bad.
like it felt like they hated DeAndre Swift. I am shocked. Javonte Williams being this, I don't know, springy is the word I would use, is a shock. And
he's running into light boxes for the most part because teams are so afraid of Lamb and Pickens, which is what it was always going to be with Lamb and Pickens. But I didn't think he was going to be able to take advantage of them the way that he has. Holy smokes.
It's a good reminder, and I think we're seeing this right now with different players around the league. Dexter Lawrence might be one of them. It's like we have these sky-high expectations when these players come back from devastating injuries, and then they're way below it, and then we overcorrect and think they're done, and then 2 years removed from those devastating injuries, they look back to close to their normal selves again, and that's hopefully where Javonte Williams is at.
Javonte Williams, too early in his career, like he was such a violent runner, but I always thought his elusiveness was underrated. It was kind of like, wow, he's a bruiser, and you're really seeing it these last few weeks. Like I know, like the light boxes is real. This last week he had 10 carries into light boxes for 87 yards, by the way. But he's creating as well. It's not just the line. I think the line has played well, and it's not just the structure of the defense. Like I think he is individually making some of these big plays in a way that it's been fun to watch. Not so much fun as someone who has Jaden Blue in Dynasty, which looks like a terrible pick. But yeah, I'm gonna take the Bears. Yeah, I think this is a big bounce back opportunity for this Bears offense. But I also really don't like this Bears defense against Dallas. So I think this is, high scoring. What about you?
Jalen Johnson out for the year is brutal for this Bears
Yeah.
secondary. I will take the Cowboys. I'm basing it off Dak Prescott, and vibes. I just like the shoddy vibes. I just feel like I can imagine them winning some close, just totally bizarre game that we're talking way too much about on Monday for an 0-3 and 1-2 team or whatever.
Watch DeAndre Swift go crazy in this one. Yeah. Certainly an opportunity against this defense. Okay. NFC West, Cardinals, Niners. This is me. It's another game of Mac Jones, right? It seems like he's still starting. He played really well last week. Kyle Shanahan's still really good at his job. I'm going to focus on the Cardinals because I just haven't talked about them that much. What the hell happened in this run game?
Like Clayton Adams into Dallas, their run game coordinator. I don't know.
So through the first 2 weeks of the season, everybody outside of Kyler Murray has a sub 40% success rate. James Conner this last week, 3 yards a carry. Some of it is, I think, on the offensive line, and they've had some injuries, but you start to worry about Conner maybe hitting a bit of a wall. He's ranks in the rushing yards over expected. He ranks pretty bad. Maybe you need to start, like Trey Benson is there, but I feel like this Cardinals offense has such a specific identity with, being led by the tight ends and running the football. And if they can't run the football, then you're just hoping. Marvin Harrison Jr. has looked good through the first 2 weeks of the season, but they don't really, they're not really getting that much production outside of him and McBride. So if you can't run the football, there's going to be a lack of consistency in this offense. You got to run the football better than they have. And by the way, Kyler's scrambling really well. He had an incredible scramble this last week, more so than the designed runs. But I just feel like the run game has to click for me to believe in this team.
I agree. And they're the team I'm most curious to see against like a different opponent. And this Robert Saleh 49ers defense has been pretty good because it's no shame to the Cardinals. They got the 2-0 start that they need to, but at New Orleans, home for Carolina is about as soft as it's going to get. And there have been concerning parts about the offense. You mentioned the running game. They were always so cohesive. It's like, when you see it, they were greater than the sum of their parts in terms of their line. And I don't know if it's the coaching change or what it is, but they're definitely less than that now. And then Kyler, he's interesting. There's like a stat of like what you do when you're under pressure. And like Kyler does not throw the ball that much. Like he to his receivers, like he takes sacks, he throws it out of bounds, or he scrambles. And so like there isn't that sort of calm in the pocket that you're feeling right now from Kyler, who's been fine through 2 weeks. He hasn't been bad, but if they can get pressure on him, and they've been solid overall on defense, especially their linebackers have just been incredible.
Yeah, that's an interesting side of this as well because, like I said, Mac Jones, had a rough start and then he turned things around and, was dicing up. I mean, it felt like his first read was open consistently against New Orleans Saints. Can the Cardinals, who are a well-coached and kind of tricky defense, take some of that away? This is a tough one. I am tempted to go Cardinals here, but I think I'm going to go Niners. I think that the Niners defense is for real.
I kind of can't believe I'm picking Mac Jones to win 2 straight, and because he was throwing him up there, he will give you a chance. I actually think the Cardinals are almost due to play better, even though they haven't won these games. I am gonna go Cardinals based on them forcing some turnovers from Mac Jones.
3-0.
I don't feel good about that.
Cardinals. How do you feel about that?
What?
The Cardinals being potentially 3-0.
It would be very strange. Either one of these teams is a little strange. The 49ers, just because they're so so banged up. But Salah's out there. It does seem like the Salahssance is happening right now. Like he's doing some more creative things. D Winters and Fred Warner's been crazy.
Crazy. Fred
I'm
Warner was
talking myself out of my pick.
Fred Warner. That's another thing about this Cardinals team. It's like, can you match up with McBride? I think the Niners can.
I'm switching my pick. I now talk myself
Switching
out of
it.
it. Yeah.
Bosa's looked really good. Okay. 2 more games, but I want to make sure we leave a lot of time for the final one because Monday Night Football is a barn burner. Chiefs Giants. I'm going to focus on the Giants offense versus the Chiefs defense side of this. Did the Chiefs actually solve the problems in their secondary from week 1 is what I'm interested. Or did they just run into a Jalen Hurts led offense that's not pushing the ball downfield? It's pretty much the key to stopping Russell Wilson and the Giants is just not giving up deep balls to him, right? I mean, in last week he went kind of thermonuclear throwing the ball downfield. I think that Steve Spagnuolo is going to zone blitz him a lot, and I think play too high cover 2 variants behind it. So to me, like whether or not that execution looks as good as it has in the last few years is going to go a long way towards determining whether or not Russell Wilson can attempt some of those passes. Giants receivers looked really good last week. So, it's a unique challenge. I think that Russell Wilson versus Steve Spagnuolo is something that intrigues me.
It feels like a mismatch, and it feels like he will force Russell Wilson into making some throws that he probably shouldn't when the way to beat them is going to be, with patience. And I just worry, my number one concern with this Chiefs team long term is with the pass rush overall. And I don't think it's going to show up too much in this game. The Giants offensive line, we'll see if they get Andrew Thomas back. That's really hurt them not having him. They can't run the ball at all. You mentioned bottom 5 running teams. They might be the worst, at least through 2 weeks. The Giants just no push whatsoever, nothing at all. So if that makes them one dimensional, I don't think the problems that I see for the Chiefs are going to show up too much in this game, but I am worried about the pass rush overall.
Yeah, the Chiefs offense, I feel, is just going to look like they have over the last few weeks. I was going to talk about the Chiefs run game against the Giants, but let's be real. Like, is it going to look different? Probably not.
Your pass rush win rates at ESPN, which I do like as a quick and dirty. And I know it's so early and it's so matchup dependent, but the Chiefs offensive line numbers are, brutal. Like in terms of how they've played overall, which is a little surprising to me. And Kayvon Thibodeau's playing really well. He has about as many like run stuffs as any player in the league. I think Abdul Carter's been better than the numbers. You have Dexter. Like it could be tricky. Like I could see Chiefs having to sweat this game out a little bit because their offense just isn't explosive enough.
I feel like the Chiefs backs are getting stuffed. Let's see. You got me thinking about that. I was going to pull up their stuffed rates. I mean, they're not at the bottom of the league because they're not like it's not as many negative runs as some of these other teams that we've been talking about, the Bears, the Raiders, and whatnot. But it's pretty bad, and obviously similar to Chicago. If you take out the Mahomes carries, it's really, really bad.
Their next leading carry has 47 yards. Next leading rusher, Mahomes has like 120. It's like crazy.
Where are you on the Andy needs to change his offense? Because, it's all this inside zone, shotgun running game.
First of all, justice for Matt Nagy. Like they've been doing this for 3 years before, it's Andy Reid's offense. Yeah, they do seem a little fresh out of ideas or just trying the same stuff when remember Andy Reid used to come into the season and everyone would be like, oh wow, look at what Andy's doing. Yeah. And we're gonna copy them. You're not seeing that right now.
All right, I'm still going to take the Chiefs here. I think that Steve Spagnuolo, like you said, I think that they'll be able to blitz Russell Wilson and catch this Giants offensive line by surprise and force some turnovers potentially. But yeah, I'm until Rashee Rice returns, I think I'm kind of out on this Chiefs offense.
Yeah, and we don't know if Worthy plays right in this game or not. I'm a little out on them, and yet I think this will be a major comeback to earth game for Russell Wilson, if I had to guess, and that we'll hear more Jackson Dart talk next week.
All right, Lions Ravens. Here we go. I'm going to Baltimore on Saturday.
That's badass.
Uh,
This game is incredible.
yeah, we're pretty excited to have this on Monday Night Football. Okay, so I will go first. We got the Lions fresh off of a dominant win, bounced back over the Bears. The Ravens took out their frustrations on the Browns. Two 1-1 teams, which is kind of crazy. Lot of things we could talk about with this. One thing I'm interested in, I'll focus on this from the Ravens standpoint, is the return of Isaiah Likely. I think he is going to play in this one. It looks like he's been practicing for a minute. He was I think questionable last week, but anyways. Because I think that the Ravens offense without their standard 12 personnel passing attack has been somewhat limited. I know that didn't look like it week 1, but I think getting back Likely is sneaky big, and I think it's sneaky big against this Lions defense that through the first 2 weeks of the season, obviously it's just 2 games, has matched 2 tight ends 100% of the time with base defense. So the Ravens need to have the ability to throw play action pass, and I mean when I think about the Ravens offense at its best, and I think about when it's operating on all cylinders last year and dominating opponents, to me it's Likely and Andrews teams putting the wrong players on the field and then being able to take advantage of that. Likely, in particular, on those, he brings more of that vertical element. So I think he could be sneaky big in this one coming back. I think maybe his absence has been a little bit underplayed.
That it's a great call, and then you think about what those matchups are going to be when Lions are in base, whether that's like Anzalone or Derek Barnes getting stuck on one of those guys. Can Mark Andrews do a little
Yeah,
more?
not a lot early on.
That's a little concerning. I know they love talking about how much they love Charlie Kolar. They're third, but he is a strictly blocking guy. And it's interesting. I'm not worried about the Ravens offense even in the least. Obviously they look at the point totals. It honestly seems like the biggest problem is there's so many mouths to feed. DeAndre Hopkins has 3 incredible catches this season, and he's only played 25 snaps on the season. Not that I think he's going to be a huge difference maker, but Bateman's been quiet. Andrews has been quiet. Derrick Henry's, coming off of a bad game. He's fumbled a couple times. It's crazy that they're putting up 40 points a game when all those things are true.
Where are you on this Lions defense early on?
Very worried. Everyone made that comparison after week 1. Oh, the Cowboys, they could be the new Bengals. And I was kind of thinking could the Lions be the
that
new
bad?
Bengals?
That worried?
I'm a little worried. Maybe not that bad, but in the sense of what I think people were hoping the Bengals
or the Lions
could be a 12-win team where the defense is 20th and the offense is 2nd. I do think in this game specifically, the Lions will have to be up for winning a out-and-out shootout, because I just don't think a team with this little pass rush, and I am very worried about their pass rush, is ultimately going to slow down the Ravens for 4 quarters.
Outside of Aiden Hutchinson, it's just and he's still kind of coming back online. He looks good. He looks fine. I think he'll be fine by midseason. But it's nothing. Not I think not having McNeil, who's sneaky massive for them.
And he'll be back at some point, so hopefully that helps. So that's good, right?
Yeah. No,
so.
he will. Yeah, he will. Yeah. Yeah, it's brutal. I thought this Lions defense would be really good, and I mean, lost in the Caleb thing is that he was he was moving the ball on them a lot. They just got outgunned, and then they had to play catch up.
Right, and Brian Branch had an incredible game. They have a couple incredible players, but when you think about, okay, you said how they're in base defense a lot. Okay, not a lot of teams doing that, and a little slower there, not dynamic at linebacker. And then they're essentially playing the closest thing to 2 nose tackle-ish run stoppers in the middle of their line. So there's not a lot of pass rush juice there. And then their other edge is Al-Qaid Muhammad, who was on a practice squad last year and it's played okay. And then Marcus Davenport, which he literally got hurt on a sack last week, which I felt bad just thinking of Saints fans watching that, but it was just the most Marcus Davenport play ever that he got hurt on the sack. He did return, and they just don't have enough guys. I can't believe they didn't sign Zadarius Smith. I think it was a big mistake by them.
Yeah, I feel I mean, every time I say that the Ravens can throw the ball, then they just come out and like put up like 300 yards in the ground. But I think that the Ravens play action passing attack is going to be a problem for them. On the flip side, I mean, so you're on Detroit. I suspect you're gonna approach that side of the ball because that's where I think this could get interesting.
Yeah, then that was not to skew negative because it's basically, is their interior line up for a shootout? I do think that's the style of game that this needs to be, and they were obviously much better in a much easier matchup against Chicago. I thought they did more outside zone, outside runs, which were great. I think take advantage of where they're better on the offensive line, and Gibbs can win that way. But basically, is that group up for the challenge? Because the Ravens are good on the defensive interior with Madubuike and Travis Jones. Because if they can hold out up, you were reminded last week, oh yeah, like it's players, not plays. And like there's just so many incredible players on this offense that I lean towards that. Yes, they are up for that sort of challenge.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to whether or not they can run the football more like they did in week 2 versus 1. I will say, watching back some of Jahmyr Gibbs, it was mostly outside zone runs. All it took from him was like one step to get the entire Bears run defense flowing. And then he would just kill them going the opposite. He did it like over and over and over. It really shows you the benefit of, by the way, like having an outside zone running game under center. Bijan doesn't get this because it felt like the Bears defense just had no way they were completely confused by him in the backfield. Ravens defense much better against the run, but I'm watching the linebackers. Last week it looked like I don't know how to say his first name. Teddy. It's Teddy, but with an E at the end. Buchanan was playing more than Simpson next to Roquan Smith. And the Browns got him a few times in the run game with, you mentioned Judkins. I think that's going to be really important because you saw last week when Jared Goff is supported by run game and he has time on play action, and it felt like he had 5 seconds against Chicago on every play action pass. Truly, he can cook. He cooked them. He was perfect. So he's like, okay, can you take that away?
And that, like, Jameson Williams can cook him too. There just aren't many players like him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I thought that was one of the best games of his career. I know he's had crazy statistical games.
He was unbelievable last week.
And he can do that. There's no one. I know the Ravens are better in the secondary, or they hope to be, than some recent years past. But Jair Alexander's already played himself like off the field. We'll see if he's back this week. But he's not going to be a key part. That there will be mismatches for them ultimately for Goff to find, as long as he has a little bit of time. I do think no Kyle Van Noy hurts because you mentioned the second linebacker spot. I think their edge depth overall is pretty poor, and so right, it's a good call. And he's been relatively quiet. He's been on the field, but he's been relatively quiet through 2 weeks.
Yeah, the Ravens' defensive depth is definitely being tested early on, and you are seeing like kind of they're mixing it up a lot. They're not like Zach Gore is not saying like, cool, Alexander play through, like he put in TJ Tampa. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna see maybe Buchanan plays more. I just think if really, and you could say this about every Lions game, to be honest, but if you can limit Gibbs, then you're solid. Don't you just feel like he is the straw that stirs the drink in this offense, right? I mean, St. Brown was amazing, but he was allowed to be amazing because Goff had so much time.
He's also someone that other teams just don't have, except for the Falcons and maybe the Eagles. That it's just that unique of a weapon at running back. It totally tilts the field. You're right.
He really like moves at a different speed out there, and when that
trap play where it just felt like last week is just crazy.
Yeah, and again, I think the Bears' run defense is a real problem, but it'll be a test. I think the Lions. I'm with you. I think the Lions' best chance of this is it being high scoring. The last time they played, do you remember?
I feel like no.
It was 2023, and the Ravens destroyed them.
Right. It was pretty much the worst like Goff game / Lions offense game in a couple of years, right?
The Lions have not beaten the Ravens since 2005.
Unless
I missed something in the headset. I'm taking the Ravens in this because I think that the Lions defense has a lot of concerns. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is high scoring and ends up being closer than I think maybe the line.
It was a little higher of a line than I expected. If I'm gonna get spicy, it's that the Ravens actually win going away in the end, because I think the coordinator change and just how this Lions season is gonna play out, I think they're gonna be more the Lions team they want to be by December. I think the Ravens are a little more fully formed right now to win like a 40-31 type of game, something like that.
That would be an interesting like discussion or podcast, like what teams are going to be better in December than they are now. Easy choices, a lot of teams with coaching changes for sure, but I felt that way about Chicago since the beginning.
The Ravens are usually that team, so maybe I'll be wrong. Like they often close very strong and start quite slow.
I just can't get the first 3 quarters of week 1 out of my head when they just looked like unbeatable, and then right. But then they collapsed. I'm gonna go Ravens here, but it could be fun. I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun game.
And you get to just like stay and watch it live. That's great.
No, I think I have to watch it on a plane, and then I'll watch it the next morning too. Yeah, I have to go to Bristol on Tuesday, and then I'm in New York. So, well, that's it for this week. Everybody, go check out Gregg's podcast, NFL Daily. It is as advertised. It comes out a lot more than this one. You can check out my podcast with David Dennis Jr. Viewer discretion. We are talking about Alien Earth and Task. You watching Task?
I need to, but no, I am not.
I love it. I love stuff like that. It's 2 episodes in the tank, HBO. You can find that on YouTube or look up Viewer Discretion wherever you get your pods. Thank you, as always, to my friends at Omaha Productions who make this podcast, Kirsten Sebecki, Owen Saylor, combined 2 of their names, Jack Foster, Tucker Tashton, just force to have it. Otherwise, I will be back next week to talk about what is hopefully a great Monday Night Football game with Dominique Foxworth. I'll see you then.